Third POV. A group of individuals sat in chairs around a large wooden table, the room dark and lit by the holographic video screens and large green ranking chart. Check out the results from the exam. One person called out. On the chart, which read examination result, 10 names were listed as the top 10 highest ranking scores in the practical portion of the entrance exam, with the top 3 scores glowing in red, orange, and yellow colors in descending order, while the rest glowed in green. The chart showed the name of the examined, 2 boxes with points marked in either villain points or rescue points, and a final bow tallying all their scores. First, Izuku Midoriya, 26 villain points, 75 rescue points, total score, 101. Second, Katsuki Bakugu, 77 villain points, 0 rescue points, total score, 77 points. Third, Ajiro Kirishima, 39 villain points, 35 rescue points, total score, 74 points. Fourth, Ochiko Uraraka, 28 villain points, 41 rescue points, total score, 69 points, insert Lenny face. Fifth, Ibara Shiozaki, 36 villain points, 32 rescue points, total score, 68 points. Sixth, Itsuka Kendo, 25 villain points, 40 rescue points, total score, 65 points. Seventh, Tenya Ida, 52 villain points, 9 rescue points, total score, 61 points. Eighth, Tetsu, 49 villain points, 10 rescue points, total score, 59 points. Ninth, Fumikage Tokoyami, 47 villain points, 10 rescue points, total score, 57 points. 10th, Yosetsu Aways, 50 villain points, 6 rescue points, total score, 56 points. Wow! A sultry feminine voice said. Quite the results. The second place student didn't even have rescue points. A holographic screen widened to show footage of Bakugu destroying robots with his explosions. He took down those fake villains like an ace. Another guy voiced out. When most of the other examins went running from that big obstacle, he stayed focused on the smaller targets, letting them get close and counterattacking. The kid's tough. On the other end, the first place student had the most rescue points. The female said again. Another holographic screen widened, this one showing footage of Izuku Midoriya destroying the 0-point Robo-Groudon. He's not the first UA hopeful to take down that giant robot, but it's been a while since I've seen someone completely blow it up with just one attack. The other guy said. That's some firepower. Yeah, but at what cost? The first guy voiced. Did you see how badly he injured himself? The screen now showed Izuku Midoriya being looked after by the invisible Quirk girl. It's like his body isn't used to his own power. Standing on the wall instead of sitting down, a tall, slender figure with long, messy black hair watched with undiscernible eyes. He narrowed his eyes at Izuku's injuries, humming silently in contemplation. He also isn't in the first of our past UA students to have little control of their quirk. Nizu spoke, sitting on the end of the table. That is why this school exists after all, to nurture and help these heroes in training to grow and reach their fullest potential. He's right. Another voice sounded out, this one deeper and more raspy. But regardless of his injuries, he still used his quirk on the prior fake villains efficiently too. He showed an excellent show of movement and speed and crushed those fake villains to a pulp. His quirk seems like a power-up quirk that breaks his limbs with too much added power. You interested in taking him into your class, Mr. Vlad King? Nizu asked. Yes, Vlad King was cut off by a sharp no. The group turned towards the lanky man standing by the wall who interrupted. I'll take him, he said with a tone that screamed out that there wasn't anything to change his mind. Nizu hummed and said, very well. He will be enrolled into Class 1A under your care. I hope you don't test him too hard, Eraserhead. The man simply smiled. Well, that settles that. The second voice said, as well as most of the other practical examens and some of the recommended ones. But what about this kid? A video screen widened that showed footage of a short kid with purple balls for hair. He trapped enough fake villains to pass the exam, and his written scores are high too, but he's got quite the history. Indeed, the female said as she pressed a button showing several holographic documents and reports. Says here he has been reprimanded and even suspended from his previous school for sexual misconduct on his female classmates. What a naughty boy. Good test scores doesn't excuse him from these wrongs. Vlad King said. We are supposed to set a standard. How will we look enrolling this nosy little pervert into our hero course only for him to do the same thing to our students? Maybe even future women that he encounters if he becomes a hero. Well, we can't just reject the little guy because of that. Another man said. 3 years here can change a person. It seems somewhat rash to kick him out for his actions as a kid. So what do you propose? Vlad King asked. Don't worry, Eraserhead said, the group looking back to him. Eraserhead smiled darkly. I got an idea. Izuku POV. After I got my acceptance letter from UA, I spent the morning and afternoon celebrating with my mom, Mr. Mime, Pikachu and Eevee. We went to a fancy restaurant to celebrate. I didn't want my mom to overspend just to celebrate me getting into UA. But she was very insistent. In fact, she actually told me that she saved up enough money through my 10 months of training and even set up a reservation at the restaurant, saying how she knew that I would get in. It was by far one of the best and sweetest gesture that my mom ever did, and it was the best. The dinner was amazing, though the most memorable moment there was when I saved a girl from choking. She was choking on a piece of steak, and I was quick to give her the Heimlich and save her. Her parents praised and thanked me for my help, though I was too busy gawking at the girl I saved. I didn't fully notice how she looked like until after I saved her, and I felt like I committed sacrilege for daring to touch such a beautiful goddess. She was an inch taller than me, with pearl white, flawless skin, feline-like, onyx black eyes, long raven black hair that seemed to absorb the light around her, styled in a spiky ponytail with a large strand hanging on the right side of her face. She also wore a red dress that did an incredible job, much to my embarrassment, of showcasing her rather mature body. Her legs were long and curvy, with the dress exemplifying her hips. A bit of her back was exposed by an open part of the dress that showed her curvy, angled backside and straightened figure that highlighted her aristocratic level of grace, and finally, the 2 large melon-like breasts that she possessed, which I realized were the large bouncy orbs that touched my hands when I wrapped my arms around her waist for the Heimlich. After I managed to calm down from my blushing embarrassment, my mom saying my face was like a tomato, the girl and her parents thanked me profusely for saving her. They were so thankful, in fact, that they invited me and my mother to their table, asking us to join them and would pay for the dinner. Me and my mom tried to refuse, but we gave in quickly. Especially me when the girl I saved pulled out the puppy dog eyes. So we spent the dinner with them, the girl introducing herself as Momo Yaoyorozu. I introduced myself and me and Momo actually got along great. We both were both smart, and as it turned out, we both were going to UA. Momo and her parents actually celebrating by going to this restaurant for a light dinner. As it turned out, the Yaoyorozus were freaking loaded. No wonder they offered to also give me that large check. Thought. I, however, refused it and said that saving someone is what a hero did, that I shouldn't get an award for doing something that was right. Me and my mom had a laugh at how stunned they were and how much they insisted, but we wearied them down and they understood. I certainly thought I had enough of a reward when after dinner Momo took me aside and gave me her freaking number. She said she looked forward to seeing me at UA and to call her if I wanted to hang out sometime, leaving with a wink. I was a blushing mess for the rest of the ride home, and my mother would not stop teasing me about it. It got even worse when Pikachu and Eevee found out and joined in. But afterwards, that very same night, I finally got back into contact with All Might. He told me to meet him back at Dagobah Beach. So the very second that I got his message, I rushed out with Pikachu and Eevee in tow. I arrived at Dagobah Beach to find All Might there, in his weakened state, looking at the sea, apparently talking to someone on the phone. As I got closer, I heard All Might howling in laughter. Really? All Might said as he laughed. Ha! Oh, the kid's going to be chick magnet when he goes pro. Please tell me you scored a photo of him. Thank you, baby. Speaking of which, How about I take you guys on our own celebration? Maybe break the news to Izuku. Hey All Might! I called out to the weakened pro. All Might jumped and let out a startled scream of panic, blood gasping out. Too loud, kid, All Might said, panic in his voice and his face blushing as he covered his phone. All Might's here, / no way. Where? A couple of few meters away cried out in surprise. All Might froze in panic before whispering to me. Way to blow my cover. Say that it was a mistake. I was just kidding. I yelled out quickly. Nothing to see here. Lame, / I wanted an autograph, the couple said. Me and All Might sighed in relief. All Might quickly got back to his phone and said, Oh no, it was nothing, baby. All Might said quickly. It was just some silly kid lying and trying to start something. He said that last part while looking at me annoyance, much to my embarrassment. I also noticed Pikachu and Eevee's ears shoot up and frozen in place, shocked for some reason. Hey, listen babe, I got to call you back. Something came up and I got to handle it quickly. Yeah, I'll call you back soon. Yeah, me too. Okay, bye. All Might hung up the phone after that. All Might was what that? I said, more quietly to not alert the couple nearby again. It was nothing. All Might said simply but still sounded panicked. I was confused but let it slide. I heard tiny gasps and crackle of giggles and looked down to see Pikachu rolling on the sand. Cheeks puffed up and looked ready to burst out howling in laughter. Eevee was still, but I could see the evolution Pokemon letting out tiny choked giggles too while shaking a bit. Hey, you guys alright? Yes. PPPFFF, hehe, yeah PFFF boss. Hehe, I just PFFF can't believe how PFFF clueless you are. Pikachu said mentally. Huh, said. He means how you messed up saying All Might's name out loud with that couple nearby. V said quickly, a little too quickly. He also stared at the still cackling Pikachu with what looked like a pointed glare. I felt that something was up here, but I just decided to let it go and move on to All Might, who raised his hand up. Congrats on getting in, kid. All Might said, a proud smile on his face. Knew you could do it. I couldn't have done it without your help, I said as I high-fived All Might. Is Gran Torino around? I want to thank him too. I also lost contact with him after the exams. He had to go back to his home in the Yamanashi prefecture. All Might revealed. Said his work here was done with you figuring out full cowling. Sends his regards and congrats too. He nodded. Oh, and speaking of which, I didn't tell anybody at UA that I have been training you or anything. All Might said, making me perk up in surprise. Really, I wasn't one of the judges and didn't pull any strings for you. You earned that spot all on your own. I smiled, bowed and said, wow, thanks so much for telling me. I'm glad to hear that. I then perked up, remembering something. Oh yeah, I was really surprised that you were going to be a teacher in UA this year. Makes sense with why you were in Mizudofu. After all, your agency is in Minato, Tokyo dash. Getting creepy / getting creepy. Both All Might and my Pokemon said, making me stop abruptly in embarrassment. All Might turned to the sea, taking a few steps towards it, and said, the school didn't want me telling anybody about the job until they made an official announcement. Seemed like fortuitous timing. An easy way to find someone to inherit one for all. I was on a long hunt for a successor. Izuku gasped lightly, remembering All Might's words from 10 months ago. So that's it, thought. He was originally going to give it to a UA student. Someone who was strong. I looked down at my hands in disgust and shame. Someone who already had a quirk. The memories of Bakugu and the kids at Aldera calling me worthless flashed in my head as I clenched my fists. Even though I managed to learn full cowling and use one for all safely, I still broke my arm and legs. I mumbled depressingly. I still can't fully control it. Not all of it. I could feel Pikachu and Eevee's looks of concern. All Might turned back to me and said, you will learn to manage all of it in time. Hoping to master all of it right away is like asking a Charmander to suddenly use Blast Burn. You still got to level up and get stronger and more experienced. Yeah, I said, the weight of doubt and self-hate still in my mind. But hey, despite what happened, you still got first place in the exams, All Might said. In fact, you broke my record. I froze, my brain not comprehending what I heard. I looked back up at All Might, proud and smiling. It's true, All Might said. When I took the entrance exam myself, I got a straight 100 total points. Highest ever score that anyone ever got in UA history. That is until you came along, young Midoriya. You may have a long way to surpass me and take my place as the symbol of peace, but you surpassed my score. You are well on your way, kid. I shed a few tears, the dark clouds of doubt slowly pulling away as shook myself and gained a determined look, emboldened by All Might's words. And don't worry about those wounds, kid, All Might said. Think about them as a reminder to do better next time. I was by no means perfect when I got one for all. Wounded myself a bunch of times, and that was just me holding 100% of it. Tell me, young Midoriya, did your current output change at all during the exam or after? Oh yeah, I said, remembering how I practiced with full cowling during the week awaiting the letter from UA. I feel fully comfortable using 5% now, and I can use even 6% only for a while. All Might nodded. Good. That shows that your body is getting more used to the quirk. All Might bent down and grabbed 2 empty cans of spray paint. As it stands right now, you are overflowing with energy, like a wine glass with too much water. But with time and training you will be able to hold it better. All Might crushed the cans as he buffed up. Then it's yours to command. I looked at my mentor/idol in awe and looked down at Eevee and Pikachu staring at me with determined, confident eyes. I smiled and nodded. Look, it really is All Might. /no way. Where did he come from? The couple from afar shouted. All Might flinched at his foolish show. Right now we run. All Might took off down the beach, with me and my 2 Pokemon running to catch up. As we ran, I thought, All Might is right. I can't just expect me to get the hang of this quirk right away. I have a long road to ever be as great as him, and I can't be blocked down by my own mistakes. I have to accept them and jump on through. To keep going forward. By the way, young Midoriya, All Might said, slowing down so that he ran right beside me. I forgot to mention about your reward for placing first in the exams. Time skip. 2nd week of April. 3rd POV. Izuku, are you all set? Izuku Midoriya asked. Yeah, I am, Izuku said, clipping on his belt, 2 miniaturized Pokeballs secured to its side. Izuku was currently getting himself ready for his first day at UA High School, wearing the school uniform. The uniform was a white dress shirt with a red tie underneath a gray uniform, navy blue stripes on his sleeves, the collar, and 2 navy blue pads with gold buttons on his shoulders. He wore a pair of navy blue pants that were slightly baggy by his feet, and also wore his classic red shoes. Are you sure? She said again more insistently. You didn't pack just action figures dash. I have everything, Izuku said with hurry in his voice. He hung a necklace around his neck, a simple silver necklace with a miniaturized Pokeball hanging on it, a signature lightning bolt on its red half. Izuku looked to Pikachu, standing by Izuku. Okay Pikachu, remember, we got permission from All Might for you to stay out of your Pokeball during school, but only if you behave, alright? Yeah boss, I got it, Pikachu said. Don't wander off around the school, don't electrocute the students, I got it. How rebellious do you think I am? Do you really want me to answer that? Izuku deadpanned at Pikachu. Mister, I don't like being in a Pokeball. Hey, that thing is a constraining, horrible death trap, Pikachu protested. I don't know how Eevee can stand being in there, or even any dash. A pointed look from Izuku shut Pikachu up, the electric mouse Pokemon rolling his eyes and jumping onto Izuku's shoulder. Okay, I got to go mom, or we are going to be late. Izuku, Inko said. What? Izuku said exasperated. Inko smiled, her eyes watery. I think you look so cool. Izuku was taken back by it, before smiling brightly. I'm off. I'll be home soon. Today is my first day of my high school career. Izuku thought as he left. As he arrived later at UA, Izuku still couldn't help but smile in awe at passing through its gates once more. The UA acceptance rate was just as small as ever, over 1 in 300, though I hear that there was an exception. 36 students were accepted into Hero course through the entrance exam and 5 got in through recommendations. And we were split into 2 classes, though I wonder how they will handle that extra person. Could it be that one class will have 21 students? Or will they bump someone from general studies into the other class to make it fair? Will Serena be here? Boss, I think you are going through a expo sighting phase, Pikachu said, listening to his trainer's thoughts through their connection with OFA. Oh sorry, Izuku said. But let's find Class 1A quickly before we're late. It took a few minutes for Izuku to find the class, but eventually he found himself outside the classroom. Man, this thing is huge, Izuku mumbled. How big are the students here? You're telling me, boss, Pikachu said. Looks big enough to squeeze a Snorlax into. I wouldn't go that far, buddy, Izuku said. Door's not wide enough. Izuku took another look at the door. The most promising students in the country are here, Izuku muttered. He suddenly thought of the blue-haired kid from the exam and Bakugu. Izuku shuddered and shook himself. Maybe they are different classes. Maybe everybody here is nice dash. As Izuku opened the door, he was reminded just how truly shitty his luck is. Take your feet off of that desk now, shouted the tall blue-haired teen. Ha! Bakugu said tauntingly with a mocking smile. It's the first day and you are already disrespecting this academy by scuffing school property. You cretin! The blue-haired kid yelled out again. You're kidding me, right? Bakugu questioned him tauntingly. Your old school put a stick up your ass, or were you born with it? Just my luck, Izuku thought comically as he looked at the 2 teens, wearing the same uniform as him. You sure you don't have an Absol following you around, boss? Pikachu muttered. I could have sworn that I saw 2 of them following you around outside. The blue-haired teen shook his head and sighed. Let's start over. I'm Tenya Ida from the semi-private academy. The now identified Ida raised his right hand almost robotically to the explosive douche. Samai-ha? Bakugu questioned. So you must think that you are better than me. I'm going to enjoy tearing you a new one. Classic Kabakugu. / classic Bakadush. Both Izuku and Pikachu thought. You would threaten me, Ida said. Your own classmate. Are you sure that you are in the right place? Bakugu merely scoffed. Believe me, I have been thinking that for years, Pikachu muttered. The 2 teens heard the Pokemon, however, and turned to look at Izuku. Ida was momentarily surprised before straightening up, while Bakugu glared at Deku with pure hatred. It's him. The whole rest of the class turned to look at Izuku, said Green Bean, hearing a tiny gasp from the corner of the room. You hi, Izuku announced, slightly embarrassed. Pikachu by his shoulder chuckling at his trainer. Good morning, Ida said as he marched over to Izuku dramatically. My name is Tenya Ida from the Dash. Yeah, I know, Izuku said, cutting off the teen. I'm Izuku Midoriya. It's super nice to meet Dash. Izuku. Izuku heard before being tackled into a hug by a rather feminine figure, Pikachu flying off his shoulder at the impact. Oh, it is fortuitous that we are in the same class together, the unknown female said. It's so nice to have shared this high school experience with a friend. Izuku was currently suffocating, his blushing face trapped between 2 large breasts. He struggled to move before he froze and thought, wait, I know that voice. Is that Dash? Izuku looked up from his Kyujini prison / blessing and saw that familiar face of Momo Yaoyorozu. Yaoyorozu, Izuku said, astonished. Momo pouted, released him from her hug and gave him a tiny chop to the head. How many times must I repeat myself? It's Momo to you. Momo. Right, sorry. Izuku apologized and blushed. It's great to see you again, Yamomo. Izuku looked at Momo in her uniform. It was a feminine version of his own uniform. Same gray uniform over a white dress shirt and red tie. Same navy blue stripes on the sleeves and collar, navy blue pads on the shoulders, and golden buttons. However, what wasn't the same as him was the large assets, noticeable that Izuku was previously trapped in. She also wore a navy blue skirt that highlighted her hips and showed off her long creamy legs, black stockings reaching near the knees and black dress shoes. Wow, Izuku thought. She looks beautiful in that uniform. He heard Pikachu snickering off to the side. Alright, telepathic connection. Momo smiled brightly, a tiny blush on her cheeks. Now that's better. Ahem. Ida said, garnering the two's attention. Midoriya, you realized that there was something more to the practical exam, didn't you? Huh, Izuku said. You must be very perceptive, Ida said. No, you are also very focused and showed great effort during the exam, running past me and the rest while we foolishly waited for a countdown. I completely misjudged you, especially since you earned first place in the exam. As a student, it is clear that you are far superior to me. I beg you forgiveness for my rudeness and misjudgment. I find the superior part to be hard to believe. Izuku though as Ida bowed. It's okay Ida. No hard feelings. Also, I don't think that dash. Hey, I recognize that hair. A voice called out behind him. Falling boy. Izuku turned and gasped in shock. The girl behind him was none other than one of the girls he saved in the exam. Ochiko Uraraka, as All Might said. Oh my gosh. Is that nice girl that I saved from before? She also looks good in that. Wait, why am I complimenting every cute girl I see? Don't forget about me, cutie. Izuku heard another voice before he was once again tackled and hugged by another feminine form. Why am I getting tackled by girls all day today? Izuku thought before looking down on the girl hugging him. His chin bumped into a mess of hair, but it wasn't visible. Neither was the girl herself. Oh wait, it's the other girl I saved too. Hagakure was it. That uniform seems to fit her body. Why am I still complimenting more girls Izuku. Izuku heard Momo say, her voice sounding quite menacing. He turned to face her and paled at practically seeing the malevolent aura around her. Who are these girls exactly? Oh, Momo, these are the girls I told you about before. From the entrance exam. Izuku said nervously. Oh, Momo said, the malevolent aura disappearing. I see. Well, it's nice to meet you. I'm Momo Yaoyorozu, a close friend of Izuku. Hagakure released Izuku from her hug, while Uraraka straightened for a second. Oh, I'm Toru Hagakure. Toru introduced herself. Nice to meet you. And I'm Ochiko Uraraka. Ochiko introduced herself too. It's so nice to meet you. Izuku couldn't see it, but the three girls were practically in a stare-off, lightning clashing through their eyes. Izuku could also faintly hear the jealous wails of a small purple kid by the corner. As all this was going on and Izuku introduced himself to them formally, a certain blonde explosive Pomeranian watched with hatred and disgust, thinking back to when he learned of Izuku's acceptance into UA. Flashback. I can't believe that we have not one but two students heading off to UA. The teacher said as Izuku and Bakugo stood before him. And to think that you are one of them, Midoriya. It's a miracle. Bakugo remembered how Izuku stared at the teacher with a neutral look rather than blush or squirm at the attention, making the shocked explosive boy even more pissed. Afterwards, Izuku was blasted by a tiny explosion, hitting the wall behind him. Izuku grunted in pain, but before he could move, Katsuki grabbed him by the collar, his eyes wide and furious. What did you do to pass the exam? Bakugo questioned/demanded. You must have cheated somehow, right? I'm supposed to be the first and only student from this crappy school to get into UA. And you had to go and screw that up. I warned you not to apply. Bakugo felt a weight on his hand and saw that Izuku had a hand gripped over his wrist. Bakugo, Deku said, still stunning the explosive teen with the use of his last name instead of that albeit annoying nickname. Someone I looked up to told me that I can become a hero. Those I care about told me and helped me. That is why I applied. That's why I am going. Deku raised his head to meet Kaken's eyes. the explosion quirk teen staring in shock at what he saw. Instead of the weak whimpering eyes that he always had, Deku's eyes were steady, confident, and filled with anger. His mouth in a teeth-grinding snarl. But what was worse is that Bakugo swore that his green eyes glowed bright emerald, with the briefest shine of rainbow light. Bakugo would never admit it, but in that moment, his own eyes held a brief flicker of panic. Like it or not, you can't stop me, Deku yelled. Bakugo was shell-shocked at the new person that stood before him, before he growled in fury. Deku! The interaction ended with a final explosion knocking the green-haired teen to the ground and the blonde stomping away, fully aware of the glaring green eyes that followed him. Flashback over. I am going to ruin that little bastard, Bakugo thought angrily. Right after I figured out how he got in. Back over with Deku and the rest, Ida asked, Excuse me, Midoriya. I have to ask, why is your Pikachu out? The students looked at the electric mouse standing beside the green-haired teen. At the notice of all the attention, Pikachu raised his hand and said, Pika-Pi. Hagakure and a girl with pink skin and hair and yellow horns squeal at the adorableness and rush to pet it. As Pikachu was hounded on by the girls, pleased with the attention, much to Izuku's deadpanned look, Ida continued, superior in talent or not, it's against the rules to leave your Pokemon out of its Pokeball outside of activities such as Pokemon battles and approved hero exercises. I know, but Pikachu hates going into his Pokeball, Izuku said. Not sure why, but he will electrocute anyone who tries to get him inside it. I got a slip of permission from Principal Nizu to allow Pikachu to stay out of his ball, as long as he doesn't disrupt classes or attack other students. Ida hummed in thought. Very well, I suppose I can't dispute the permission of the principal, but please keep him under control. Ida waved his arm like a robot. It's like he somehow thinks he is in charge. Izuku thought, a comedic sweat drop on his head. Hey Izuku, what do you think we are doing today beside orientation? Uraraka asked giddily, standing a bit too close for Izuku's comfort, much also to the jealous stares from Momo and Hagakure. I wonder what our teachers are like. I can't wait to meet everybody. If you are just here to make friends, then you can pack up your stuff now. Voice called out. Izuku and the rest looked behind them to follow the voice, and what they found was odd. Laying on the ground behind them, out in the hallway, was a large yellow beanie bag. The whole thing slipped up, except for a face sticking out at the end. The man in the beanie had tired black eyes, black stubbles for a beard, and a mop of wild, long black hair. Welcome to UA's hero course, the man said tiredly. He unzipped the bag to stick his hand out with a juice box and sip it. The group of students by the door all looked at the man in horror. What is that thing? The man jumped up straight to his feet, unzipping and climbing out of the beanie. It took a whole few minutes for you all to shut up. That's not going to do. Time is precious. More rational students would understand. Now fully out of the beanie, the man was shown to be 6 feet tall, pale-skinned and slender, wearing a black outfit consisting of a black shirt with long sleeves, matching black pants that tuck into his black boots, a utility belt hung around his waist, and a wrapping-like scarf fully hiding his neck. Who is this guy? Izuku thought. If he is here, then he must be some kind of pro-hero working as a teacher. But he looks so worn out, like he barely got any sleep for days. The man stepped into the classroom and announced in tired voice. Hello, I'm Shoyuta Aizawa. I'm your teacher. Our teacher, was the general thought from all the students. Alright, let's get to it, Aizawa said as he dug into his beanie and pulled out a gym uniform, identical to one Izuku wore while training under Gran Torino at UA. Put these on and head outside. In the teacher's lounge, All Might, in his weakened state and wearing a bright yellow and black vertical striped suit with a white undershirt and black tie, sat at a desk and read through a notebook that read Teacher's Directory. UA's course doesn't follow the normal academic path, Toshinori mentally mused. He looked through the courses to see what Midoriya was in and who he got for a teacher. Get the wrong homeroom teacher and life is hell. Finally he found where Izuku was put in and his eyes widened in shock. Oh crap! All Might shouted. He got Izuku Midoriya is going to be singled out from the start. Back over to Class 1A. What? A quirk assessment test. The newly formed Class 1A found themselves outside the main building and standing by a large field. They all changed into the same UA gym uniforms, staring at their recently revealed teacher, whose back was turned to them. Pikachu stood off to the side, choosing to watch from afar and not interfere with the class. Izuku looked around and got a good look at his classmates. They were all of different looks and sizes. Some were more drastic looking in appearance, like the tall, multi-armed student Izuku recognized from the exam, a boy with the avian-looking head that reminded Izuku of a corviknight, and the pink-haired and skinned girl, with yellow horns on her head and the white of her eyes replaced by black and only had a ring of yellow as its iris. Some other students were less drastic yet unique in appearance, like one guy with weird-looking elbows that looked like dispensers, a girl with these jacks coming out of her earlobes, a guy with a large tail, and a small kid with purple balls for hair. But orientation, Erratic said. We are going to miss it. If you really want to make the big leagues, you can't waste time on pointless ceremonies, Izuku said, much to the gasps of the students. Here at UA, we are not tethered to traditions. He turned his head to look at the class. That means I get to run my class however I see fit. Izuku continued with, you've been taking standardized tests most of your lives, but you never got to use your quirks in a physical exam before. This country is still trying to pretend we are all created equally, by not letting those with the most powerful quirks or Pokemon excel. It's not rational. One day the Ministry of Education will learn. Bakugu. Izuku looked towards the ash blonde-haired teen. You scored the most combat points in the entrance exam. What was your farthest distance throw with a softball when you were in junior high? 67 meters. Bakugu revealed. Right, Izuku said, pointing to a large white-lined circle in the field. Try doing it with your quirk. Bakugu walked off towards where Izuku pointed, the tried-looking teacher tossing him a softball. Anything goes, just stay in the ring. As Bakugu stretched his arm, Izuku said, come on, you're wasting our time. Bakugu chid in annoyance. All right man, you asked for it. He looked out to the field and prepared to throw the ball. I'll add a little heat to my throw and drop their jaws, the explosive teen thought. Die! Baku yelled out as he tossed the ball with large explosion, the ball sailing off into the sky in a trail of smoke and fire. Die! The students thought in shocked confusion, all except for. Some things never change, Izuku thought. What a show-off. Pikachu thought. You all need to know your maximum capabilities, Izuku said as he watched the softball land far away. He turned back to the class. It's the most rational of figuring out your potential as a pro hero. Izuku raised his phone to show Bakuga's score. 705.2 meters. 2,313.6483 feet for us simple Americans. Whoa! One kid with blonde hair and a black lightning bolt on his head said. 705 meters. Are you kidding? I wanna go, Mina said excitingly. That looks like fun. Yeah, it looks like fun, the purple ball-haired kid said. I'm going so have fun whopping you guys' asses. So this looks fun, huh? Izuku muttered darkly. Izuku picking up that maybe the pink girl and purple ball guy made a mistake with those statements. You have 3 years to become a hero. You think it's going all games and playtime. Izuku smiled darkly. Idiots. Today you will compete in 8 physical tests to gauge your potential. Whoever comes in last and I don't see as worthy is done, and will be expelled immediately. What? Immediate expulsion. 8 tests. Izuku thought horrified. You can't just expel us. Uraraka protested. I mean it's the first day. It's not fair. And do you think natural disasters are? Izuku said, stunning the students. Or power-crazy villains. Or someone using their Pokemon for destruction and crime. Or catastrophic accidents that wipe out whole cities. No, the world is full of unfairness. It's a hero's job to try and combat that unfairness. If you want to be pro, you will have to push yourselves to the brink. For the next 3 years, UA will push one terrible hardship after another at you. So go beyond, plus ultra style. Aizawa made a come hither gesture. Show me that it is no mistake that you are here. Show your skills. Ida frowned and thought, I don't approve of this hazing, but UA is the top hero program for a reason. I have no choice. Time to blow these losers away. Bakuga thought, stretching with an arrogant smile. Now we are wasting time just talking, Izawa said. Izuku stared forward with confidence in his eyes. Let the games begin. Test 1, 50-meter dash. The first test was a simple 50-meter dash, with a robot with a camera by the end to keep track of an individual's time. Izuku watched as the first two to be tested were Tenya Ida and the girl with the long green hair, Tsu Ajui. The two readied themselves until they heard the gun blank shot to start the dash. As soon as it went off, the two sprung into action, Ida shooting off super fast. Izuku noticing once again the engine pipes on Ida's leg firing air out and making him go super fast. As for Ajui, she jumped up high and started jumping like a politoad. As Ida crossed the finish line, the robot called out, 3.04 seconds. Ida slid to a stop afterwards. In only 50 meters, I can only get up to third gear. The blue-haired teen thought. Present mic, Tenya Ida. Quirk, engine. The engines in his legs allow for him to run at wicked fast speeds and kick really dang hard. He replenishes his engine fuel by drinking orange juice. Well, he's definitely in his element, Izawa mumbled. However, speed isn't the only factor for these tests. Ajui finished afterwards croaking as she turned to the robot who announced her score. 5.58 seconds. Present mic, to Ajui. Quirk, frog. She can basically do anything an amphibian like Pokemon can do, like scale walls with her sticky fingers and jump really high. She also has a freakish long tongue, perfect for capturing or grabbing baddies and others. The next pair to go up was Uraraka and the blonde guy with large tail. Izuku learned that his name was Mashiro Ojiro. Uraraka touched her shoulder, a pink glow shining upon touch. I'll lighten up my clothes, Uraraka said. Oh, and my shoes too. Present mic. Ochiko Uraraka. Quirk, zero gravity. She can make anything she touches with her weird pink pads weightless by nullifying the gravitational pull and return their weight upon command. The more she makes weightless, the more she tires. She can even make herself weightless, but it gives her major nausea. As the signal was given, Ojiro used his strong tail to hop around like Ajui while Uraraka simply ran. Ojiro passed the finish line first, getting a score of 5.49 seconds, while Uraraka crossed immediately afterwards with a time of 7.15 seconds. Well, at least that's faster than junior high. Uraraka though positively. I see, Izuku thought. She used her quirk to make herself light so that she can run faster. It didn't beat the other guy's score, but it was a smart move. Izuku, you are mumbling again, Momo said. The next pair were the pink girl that was called Mina Ashido, and the blonde kid with the strange-looking belt, called Yuga Aoyama. Nice attempts, Manami, Aoyama said with a French accent. As Mina prepared herself in running start, Aoyama just stood confidently with his back to the track. But you are not showing enough pinays. The robot let out the signal, and Mina booked it while Aoyama crouched. His belt lighting up and fired off a sparkling light blue laser that launched him backwards. Let your power shine, Aoyama said as he sailed. Present mic. Yuga Aoyama. Quirk. Naval laser. That's right, it's just a belly button laser. Aoyama was sent flying for about a second before stopping and dropping to the ground, with Mina running past him. But he can't shoot it forever. Mina ran through the finish line with Aoyama firing off his laser again and flying through the finish line. 5.51 seconds. Aoyama stared back at the others, his wide smile still present, and said, If I fire off my beautiful beam for more than a second, it hurts my tummy. What a tool, most of the students thought. Izuku noticed by Mina's track that the parts where her feet touched the ground remained tiny puddles of some white acid. Izuku looked towards Mina and stared at her feet, where he found remnants of the white acid. That acid was released from her feet. Izuku mentally analyzed. Her quirk must be some kind of acid-shooting quirk where she can fire it off from any part of her skin. She must have used it to give her more speed and stride power. He looked up over Mina's body to see that she noticed his staring. Mina flashed him a teasing smile and a wink, making Izuku blush brightly and look away. Present Mike. Mina Ashido. Quirk. Acid. Just like Midoriya said, she can shoot off wicked dangerous acid from any part of her body. She can control the acidity of her acid and is resistant towards it. But if she comes into too much contact with her own dangerous acids, she'll get the same burns as anyone else. Testing the upper limits of their powers helps me access their room for growth, Aizawa mentally said. It becomes clear what they can or can't do. Their true potential. Bakugo. Midoriya. You two are up next, Aizawa called out. The two walked to their positions, Izuku doing his best to ignore the glare from Bakugo. Izuku readied himself and thought, okay, quickly analyze what to do and focus on the objective and the now. Just like Gran Torino said. With this short a distance, I could raise full cowling up to 6% and safely use it without tiring myself. I could use 5%, but short runs require long, more powerful strides than short, fast ones. Get ready to eat by dust, you worthless nerd. Bakugo taunted, but Izuku didn't bother acknowledging it. Focus on control. Izuku thought as he powered up One for All. Red veins glowing around his body. Plant your feet and shoot off like All Might Cinderace. Focus One for All more on when my feet impact the ground to launch me off. My quirk has more uses than anyone in this school. Bakugo thought arrogantly. I'll use my explosions to launch me forward and leave the pathetic runt in the dust. Runners on your mark, the robot said. Izuku's eyes opened as green lightning sparked off him, attracting the attention of the students. Ready. One for all. Full cowling. 6%. Bakugo noticed the green lightning shooting off Deku and froze in shock. The blank gun was shot and Izuku shot forward in a mini burst of pressure, leaving behind a tiny dust cloud. Bakugo quickly remembered what he was doing and launched himself, using his explosions to propel himself forward. Izuku ran with his enhanced speed, green lightning trailing past him. Bakugo was quickly catching up, but before he knew it, they passed the finish line, Izuku passing first. 4.12 seconds. The robot announced Izuku's score first and then Bakugo's. 4.15 seconds. Izuku slid to a stop, quickly shutting off One for All before the 6% strain starting affecting him. Izuku saw his score and smiled contently. Izuku looked towards Momo, where she, Uraraka, and Hagakure cheered for him. Izuku blushed for a moment before snapping out of it and smiled, rubbed the tip of his nose with his thumb and gave them a thumbs up. If you guys get what I am referring to, then you guys rock and you rule. Meanwhile, Bakugo looked at Izuku eyes wide in shock. What just happened? Bakugo numbly thought. I lost. To Deku. How? Bakugo looked at his score and Deku's and realized his mistake. I was too busy being shocked by that green lightning coming out of quirkless Deku that I momentarily forgot about the dash and started too late. But what was that lightning? And how did the nerd run so fast? That speed should be impossible for a quirkless loser. Bakugo looked at Deku going over to the other students who were cheering him on. Know this. This isn't how it's supposed to be. I should be getting all the praise. I should have won easily. Not that quirkless, useless Deku. Meanwhile, Aizawa stared at Midoriya and frowned. Test 2, Grip Strength. The second test was also simple. The students were given a device that measured how much each of the students could lift using their quirks. Izuku used One for All but focused it more on his arm where he lifted the device. With One for All boosting his strength, he got a score of 146 kilograms. Unfortunately, he was outclassed by Sato and most especially Shoji, the latter's triple arms and strength showing a score of 540 kilograms. Present Mike. Mizo Shoji. Quirk, dupli arms. This giant of a man can duplicate his arms into weird-ass tentacles that he can form into multiple body parts, including mouths, ears, eyes, and even other arms. Izuku sighed in frustration but shook his head. Bakugo watched Deku and growled in rage. Test 3. Standing Long Jump. In the standing long jump, the most notable scores came from Aoyama, Uraraka, Azui, and Bakugo. Aoyama used his naval laser to blast him to the other side of the sandbox. Bakugo used a similar method with his explosions. Azui jumped high and over the sandbox thanks to her frog quirk and her strong legs, while Uraraka made herself weightless and jumped almost the entirety of the sandbox before releasing. As for Izuku, with one for all used primarily on his legs, Deku almost managed to reach past the sandbox, yet landed right on the edge. Izuku got up and brushed himself off. Bakugo clenched his fists as he watched Deku. Test 4. Repeated side steps. The fourth test was simply doing as many side steps as fast as possible. The most noteworthy was the purple ball-haired kid, Minoru Mineta, bouncing side to side super fast with his balls piled up on either side. Deku received a higher than average score by moving fast with full cowling. Test 5. Ball throw. Bakugo was exempt from the ball throw after already throwing at the beginning. Many other students tried new unique ways to launch their ball as fast as possible, like Ida kicking the ball with his engine quirk giving him a powerful kick, Shoji and Sato using their impressive strength, and Azui throwing the ball with her tongue. Izuku was most impressed about Momo's turn where she made a freaking cannon and fired the ball with it, getting a far score. Present mic. Momo Yaoyorozu. Quirk. Creation. She can literally create just about anything using the lipids inside her body. The only exceptions are that she has to know what she's building and how it's formed, and that it can't be living or organic. She is walking, talking 3D printer. Next up was Uraraka, who made the ball weight less and tossed it, with the ball sailing off farther and farther till the point that no one could see it. Aizawa raised his phone to show them the score to be an infinity sign. Infinity! The students gasped in shock. Wow, Izuku thought. She made it weightless, so it must have passed Earth's atmosphere and is likely in space now. Izuku looked his hand. I have tried using one for all to my best limits, but compared to everyone else, I haven't gotten a big enough score. I got to step it up if I'm going to have to prove myself worthy of All Might's teaching. Meanwhile, Pikachu watched the whole events with concern over Izuku, feeling the anxiety and nervousness of his partner through their bond. Suddenly, his ear twitched, hearing a shift of movement from his left. Pikachu looked over to see All Might in his buff state hiding by the corner, overlooking the test too. Aizawa is one of those guys that don't like the media much. All Might mentally reminded himself as he stared at Aizawa calling Midoriya up for the ball toss. Says they get in the way of a hero's job. He also judges flashy and celebrity heroes like me for looking good in the spotlight. I can tell that he has his eye on Midoriya. He has been staring at him more than the other students. Just what is running through your head, Aizawa? Izuku stood at the white circle, ball in hand. The last tests are the distance run, sit-ups and seated toe touch. And I only did well on the 50-meter dash and the grip strength. I have to pull out all the stops for this one. Midoriya has been doing decent so far, Ida said to Uraraka. The hell he is. Bakugo interrupted. He's a quirkless loser. He can't do anything right. Dude, are you blind or something? Mina said, frowning at Bakugo's choice of words. Didn't you see that cool green lightning shooting off of him? Or his good score in the grip test? Yeah, plus he is super strong. Toru added. He saved me and Uraraka during the entrance exam by destroying that giant robot. Whoa, seriously? The blonde-haired kid named Kominari said. He's the one that took down that thing. Yeah, I saw it with my one eyes, Kirishima said. He smashed that thing into pieces with just one punch. It was so manly. Bakugo growled and looked at Deku. They have to be lying. I must have been seeing things. There is no way that useless Deku has a quirk. There is no way that he could have lied to me. As the students talked about the green-haired kid, Aizawa looked at Midoriya, noticing his determined look. Here it comes. Izuku breathed deeply. I have to do this. I have to go all out. Izuku threw his arm back, channeling 100% of one for all into his hand. He threw the ball, only to land a measly 47 meters away. Izuku stared at the ball stunned and looked at his hand. It wasn't broken and noticed that the rush of power of one for all had vanished just before he threw it. What happened? Izuku mumbled as he looked at his hand in shock. I was trying to use it. I erased your quirk. Izuku looked to his side to see Aizawa there next to him, his long black hair standing up, his wrapping scarf flowing all around him like a bunch of tentacles, and his eyes glowing red. You should not be here. What? Izuku said. Izuku noticed something on Aizawa, something that was hidden beneath his scarf. A pair of yellow goggles with black lines. Wait a minute. I know those goggles. I know who you are now. You can look at someone and cancel out their quirks. The Erasure Hero. Eraserhead. You are not ready. The newly revealed Eraserhead continued. You don't have control over your power. What were you going to do? Use your power and break your hand? No, Izuku lied. That wasn't what I was trying to dash. Izuku was suddenly wrapped up by Aizawa's scarf, dragging him closer to the hero. Izuku noticed Pikachu alert and sparking, ready to attack the hero, before Izuku sent him a mental message to stop. The electric mouse Pokemon stopped sparking but still stood ready. Were you going to use your power recklessly, counting on someone else to save your useless body? Izuku froze. The memory of using his power of the Robo-Groudon flashed in his mind. How he only survived afterwards thanks to Uraraka and Toru. No matter what your intentions are, you would be nothing more than a liability in battle. You are holding back. I saw what you did in the entrance exam and how you broke your limbs. You have the same reckless passion as a certain overzealous hero I know. But even with that drive, you are worthless if you go and break yourself. Izuku's eyes widened. As the Erasure Hero spoke, Izuku's mind latched onto the words that he remembered oh so clearly. The words he heard his entire life. Useless Deku. You are nothing more than a worthless cater pie for me to squash. Seriously. What a loser. You would be just a liability. You can't do anything right. Nothing more than a worthless, useless Deku. Izuku's hand clenched so tightly. His knuckles were turning white. I'm sorry, Midoriya. Aizawa continued. But there is no way you could ever become a he-dash. Shut up. Aizawa stopped, eyes wide in surprise. What did you dash? I said shut up. Izuku screamed out, his eyes meeting Eraserhead's. Said Pro's eyes widened at seeing Midoriya's glowing eyes. Glowing blue eyes. That can't be possible, Aizawa thought. I am erasing his quirk. How can his eyes still dash? He was cut from his thoughts by Midoriya. You are nothing. Nothing but a fucking hypocrite. Aizawa's eyes widened. You say that I would be worthless in a fight. Look at yourself. Your quirk can only erase other people's quirks. You would still have to fight them hand to hand. No better than if you were quirkless. Yet you trained and worked hard to fight. Isn't that what I am here for? What you are supposed to train us? To train to fight, control our quirks, and protect others. If not, then why are you a teacher? And you know why I can't control my quirk. Why I used it so recklessly to help those girls. Because I only got my quirk a fucking week before the exam. Aizawa's eyes widened more in shock at the technically true revelation. My quirk was dormant and only awakened when my body could handle it without always breaking. Izuku lied. I trained and trained to get where I am at. I didn't want to break my arms. But I did. To help those girls from getting hurt. Because that's what heroes are supposed to fucking do. Risking their lives to save those who are in danger. Despite the danger to themselves. Izuku gripped Aizawa's scarf and his eyes changed colors again. To red. That's why you are a hypocrite. Saying that I would be worthless when I am only new to using my quirk. To say I couldn't ever be a hero. Just like everybody I knew has ever told me. Of course I would be worthless as I am now. But I am willing to push myself to get better, stronger, and break myself. In my drive to grow stronger and help people. That is what a hero is supposed to do. Silence. That was the only thing that was heard other than the breeze of the wind. Even though they could barely register most of what Midoriya said, the students that listened were frozen, some even shivering at Izuku's rant. But not just of what he said, but the power behind it, like they had no choice but to listen intently. Even Bakugo was frozen, a tiny grip of fear latching in his heart at the thought of Deku close to blabbing about their past. Pikachu shivered, feeling the very wave of anger, rage, and hurt in his partner. All Might meanwhile has mixed feelings. While he was proud of Midoriya to stand up for himself, against a teacher no less, but the look of rage in his glowing eyes made him feel concerned. Aizawa released Izuku from his hold and quirked wordlessly. He brought out another ball from his pocket and gestured it to Midoriya. Prove it. While the glow of red in his eyes faded, Izuku still held his determined gaze on Aizawa. He grabbed the ball and moved back to the circle. Aizawa stepped back. Izuku looked to the ball and breathed deeply, eyes closed. He released his breath, his eyes snapping open, green electricity sparking in his eyes. Aizawa straightened, focused on what Izuku would do. I know that look. All Might mumbled from his hiding spot. It's Dash. It's the same look Izuku had when he saved those two girls. Pikachu thought. Izuku drew his hand back. As he tossed the ball with a roar, red veins of power glowed around Izuku's index finger where the ball last made contact. Erase Ahead was right about one thing, Izuku thought. I can't fully control my quirk, but I will do my best with what I can do. Even if I have a lot to learn, even if I have to work harder than anyone else to succeed, I will do what I can do, and go beyond. But at the very last touch of contact, Izuku's eyes and the ball briefly shined blue. The ball soared through the air, wind blasting out in the shockwave of Izuku's power, the ball reaching high and far, a streak of wind and blue light shooting off of it. The students looked in awe at Izuku's power, more especially Pikachu, who was cheering, and Bakugo was shocked once again. Izuku flinched in pain, knowing that his index finger was most definitely broken and swollen purple. It hurts like before at the beach, Izuku thought, and at the exams, but not as much as before. Aizawa stared at the student, he just berated with expressionless eyes that hid intrigue and acknowledgement. As the ball finally fell, Aizawa looked at his phone to see his score, 729.3 meters. Mr. Aizawa. Aizawa looked up to see Izuku standing before him, eyes shaky but determined, flashing a gritting smile. His injured hand balled in a fist high into the air. I'm still standing. Aizawa stared with wide eyes and a crazed smirk. This kid, he mumbled, astounded. If All Might could smile any wider, he would have broken his jaw. I was worried about you, young Midoriya. You knew you had to use one for all to your fullest without breaking your arm, or you would be done. So you repelled the ball at the last minute with your finger, maximizing your throw while minimizing your injuries. What the heck, young Midoriya? How did you get so cool? Pikachu was cheering and pumping his fists into the air. Nice one, boss. Way to stick it to that insomniac mop head, Pikachu said. Izuku smiled faintly. Meanwhile, with the students, they too were amazed at Izuku's true strength. Whoa, he threw it almost 730 meters. Kominari exclaimed. I knew that dude was strong from the grip test, but I didn't think he was that powerful. Zero, the dude with the weird elbows, said. Although, he looked kinda freaky when his eyes glowed red. Mina said honestly. Yeah. Uraraka cheered. He's finally showing us his true power, although his finger appears to be broken, Ida stated. Just like in the exam. Could his quirk backfire if used too much? Hagakure cheered too, but she noticed something the others didn't. What many didn't know was that Hagakure's invisibility quirk was that it refracted and blended the light around her body to the surroundings. Her quirk is based off light, and along with her history of being unnoticed by others, Hagakure could notice more unnoticeable, barely hidden lights. She saw the tiny brief shift of green to blue light in Izuku's eyes and the same glow surrounding the ball. Hagakure didn't know what that was, but just assumed that it was some part of his quirk like the green lightning. She would have to remember to ask later. Momo smiled brightly at Izuku's success, thought that smile turned to a concerned frown at noticing Izuku's broken finger. The bicolored teen with the scar narrowed his eyes slightly at Izuku, interested. Meanwhile, one student wasn't exactly taking Izuku's show of power well, noticing Izuku's score as he peeked. 729 meters. 24 points higher than my score. Just like in the practical exam. What was that? Bakugo clenched his fists. Bakugo could hear most of what the tired-looking relic of a teacher was saying to Izuku and smiled. He figured that finally someone among these losers would see how worthless Deku was. But then the nerd snapped at the teacher, and from what he picked up, his heart almost stopped at the thought that Deku nearly spilled the beans on their past. And then he throws the ball and shows off some crazy immense power and gets a higher score than him. Again. Deku. Bakugo unclenched his fists, his palms popping in miniature explosions. DEKU. Bakugo launched forwards towards the slightly injured teen. Starling both said teen and the other students. Tell me how you did that, you bastard. Tell me now, or I'll burn your face off. Izuku tried to move but faltered. Why do I feel so tired? Izuku thought with panic. I just hurt my finger. Why do I feel like I just ran 5 marathons? Izuku! Momo shouted in fear for her new friend. Pikachu and All Might were ready to spring into action. Until in the blink of an eye, Bakugo was wrapped in Aizawa's scarf, his hands no longer popping miniature explosions. Bakugo struggled against it and tried using his quirk, but to no avail on either front. Why the hell is your scarf so damn strong? Because it's a capture tool made out of carbon fiber and a special metal alloy. Aizawa said, eyes red as his quirk was active. It would be unwise to make me use my quirk for so long. It gives me serious dry eye. Too bad. The students and Pikachu thought. That quirk is amazing. Shota Aizawa. Aka Erasure Hero. Eraserhead. Quirk. Erasure. Just as Angry Green Bean said. He can erase the quirks of anyone he stares at, but the effect ends when he blinks and he can't erase metamorphic-type quirks. Aizawa pulled hard and Bakugo was launched backwards till the explosive blonde was face-to-face to Aizawa. Now listen closely because I won't say this again, and if you don't want to be expelled too, then listen very carefully. I know guys like you. Been told that we were special all your life because you have a great quirk. People probably worshipped the ground you stepped on and you thought that you can do whatever you want and no one would stop you. Well, this isn't whatever lazy, spineless junior high you were before. This school is to train the next generation of heroes, public servants that protect the weak and innocent. Not lash out in anger to those that can't defend themselves or are hurt. If you try something this again, hurt or attack another student, I won't hesitate to send you home and expel you then and there. Aizawa leaned closer, eyes glowing more red. Do. Me. Myself. Clear. Bakugo gritted his teeth. Fists so tightly clenched he thought he would spill blood. Bakugo never was told off by the teachers at his old school. Not once. No matter how many times he was nearly caught putting the nerd in his rightful place, Bakugo wondered if the teachers here actually had a backbone. Reluctantly, Bakugo nodded and stopped resisting. Aizawa let him go and shooed him off to the other students who looked at him with mixed looks of disgust, anger, and confusion. What disgusting unhero-like behavior, Momo thought, furious over Bakugo nearly attacking Izuku. Ida was right. Are we sure that he is training to be a hero? Deku. Uraraka thought, angry as well that her savior was almost attacked by a fellow student, but also confused over what Bakugo called him. But I thought his name was Izuku? Why did he call him Deku and what does it mean? Deplorable, Ida thought, straightening his glasses as he looked at the scowling blonde. Attacking a fellow student, in front of a class and teacher no less. Has UA have no policy to review a student's personal and academic background? How dare he try and hurt my Izuku? Hagakure furiously thought before freezing. Wait, my Izuku, when did I start calling him that? Sure he is cute but we only just officially met. Mina looked at the explosive blonde and frowned, suspicion in her eyes. Meanwhile, Pikachu glared at the blonde sparking in yellow electricity. Same old Bakugu, Pikachu thought. If it weren't for Izuku's admittingly foolish admiration of you, I would have turned you into a crispy corpse. Midoriya, Izawa said. Control your Pokemon. Izuku stared at Pikachu, the two staring in silence. Pikachu sighed and ceased sparking electricity, but still glared at the blonde. Suddenly, one of Izuku's Pokeballs strapped to his belt started to shift and move before opening in a flash of blue light. And out of the ball came out Eevee. Eevee, Izuku said in surprise as the brown furball tackled into him. What are you doing out of your Pokeball? Eevee stared at Izuku's hand and nudged and rubbed on it. Eee! Both Mina and Toru screeched in girlish glee. So cool-a-tea. Why do I feel like I'm going to go deaf by these two before the year is over? The earjack girl Kyukajiru said. Before Aizawa could speak up against Eevee being here. They all stared in wonder at Eevee glowing in a luminous green glow. It spread from itself to Izuku, the green-haired teen sighing in relief and warmth of heel pulse. The pain in his finger lessened and its color toned down to a light purple. Still broken but better nonetheless. Izuku also felt the sudden tiredness from before also disappear, feeling more rejuvenated. As Eevee finished his work, Izuku sighed in relief. Thanks, Eevee. Eevee nodded before stumbling onto Izuku's arms tired. What was that? Jiru asked. It was Eevee's heel pulse. Izuku answered to the shock and confusion of his classmates and surprise from Aizawa. It's a unique trait that Eevee has always been able to do. Eevees don't normally use learn heal pulse, much less the move working on humans, but Eevee somehow can do both, only that instead of healing my injuries, it takes away most of the pain. The students were left muttering in astonishment over the Pokemon, but Aizawa spoke out. Enough! He turned to Izuku. I'll excuse this interruption because it helped you. Now get back to the others. Whoever is next you can step up. Izuku walked back to the group, easing Eevee before putting him back into his Pokeball. He did his best not to notice Bakuga's glares of hatred. To Izuku the last few times went by in a flash. The next two tests were regular sit-ups and the seated toe touches. The two tests were rather simple and Izuku didn't have to use one for all for them. Nor did the other students bother using their quirks either. Izuku felt slightly hindered by his broken finger but thanks to Eevee's heal pulse, he powered through the pain and did better than he thought he would otherwise. The final test run was the long-distance endurance run around a track. Izuku used full cowling for this test to make himself faster than most of the other students, with the only ones to have beaten him being Ida with his engines and Momo where she created a bicycle to ride on instead of using her feet. Izuku only used 5% during the test, with the long-distance run being an opposite to the 50-meter dash, recurring more shorter and quicker strides rather than long, stronger ones. Finally, the students huddled up before Aizawa, anxious to hear their scores and who would be in last place. I did the best that I could, Izuku thought, staring at his hand and broken finger. I did well on 50-meter dash, the ball toss and long-distance running, while doing fairly decent on the standing long jump and grip strength test. But can I skate by with just that? What if I come in last? No, don't think negatively. Be more confident. I know I did well. Meanwhile, the other students had their own thoughts. I can't wait to see the look on that lying nerd's face when he comes in last. Bakuga thought pettily. Oh, I hope I did well on those sit-ups and toe touches. Toru thought worryingly. I was always flexible so I know I did well there. Everyone else is so worried over getting last place. Momo mentally mused as she looked at the faces of varying levels of worry of her classmates. Should I tell them that this was all a ruse from Mr. Izawa to get us to do our best? Alright, time to give you your results, Izawa said. I've ranked you all from best to worst and I'll just show it to you all. It would be a waste of time to go through them all individually. Izawa clicked a button on his phone and the scores popped up. Izuku opened his eyes and stared in shock. I got third. 1. Momo Yaoyorozo 2. Shoto Todoroki 3. Izuku Midoriya 4. Katsuki Bakuga 5. Tenya Ida 6. Tokoyami Fumikage 7. Mizo Shoji 8. Mashiro Jiro 9. Jiro Kirishima 10. Mina Ashido 11. Ochiko Uraraka 12. Koji Koda 13. Rikido Sato 14. Tsuajiri 15. Yuga Aoyama 16. Hanta Siro 17. Denki Kaminari 18. Kyuka Jaira 19. Toru Hagakure 20. Minoru Mineta. Various sighs were released from most of the students as they received their scores. Few of them even cheered in victory. And then of course was the one students that wailed in despair. Minoru Mineta practically clung onto Izawa's legs, begging for him to reconsider. Momo was just about to reveal to everyone her thoughts when Izawa interrupted her. I apologize, but I made myself clear from before. Eraserhead stated. I can run my class however I see fit, and I said that whoever comes in last and doesn't meet my expectations would be expelled from the hero course immediately, and will be transferred into general studies. You, Mineta, meet both criteria. You ranked last in the tests, and UA did a background check on your past school history. Mineta froze in horror. Crap. I didn't think they noticed that. Multiple accounts of sexual harassment, both verbal and physical, on your female classmates. Multiple detentions and even suspensions. Allegations of peeping into a girl's locker room and attempted theft of their belongings. Izawa listed. Behavior like that isn't tolerated at UA and won't needlessly risk the well-being and safety of my students, no matter their potential future talent. So I'm sorry, Minoru Mineta, but you are hereby expelled from U.A's hero course. Flashback. In summary, you wish to enroll Mr. Minoru Mineta into your class so that you can expel him during your quirk apprehension test. Mizu summarized. I must say, Izawa, that seems rather discriminatory. Call it whatever you like, sir, but I see to remember you saying that I can run my class any way I see fit. And from what I see of this kid, he isn't hero material, Izawa said. At least not without a little push. Why bother with this plan eraser? Vlad King questioned. The kid very well couldn't come in last, and it would be more easier to just reject him outright. You are taking an unnecessary risk. He doesn't have to come in last for me to find unworthy, Izawa said. I think you would remember what I did last year. Vlad King nodded. Yeah, I remember, but why not just refuse him outright? He could even enroll into another hero course from another school, and it would be their problem. I believe that what Eraser is attempting to say is that should this Minoru Mineta be enrolled into the hero course without a proper push to remove his rather deplorable behavior, that it will likely continue into his hero career, something that would be equally as possible in any other hero school that he applies to. Mizu said. And the proper push would be expulsion from the hero course to general studies, where he will have to work hard to be considered a once again possible candidate for the hero course and dilute his rather perverse actions and behavior. Izawa nodded wordlessly. Besides, even if the kid is kicked into general studies, he could make a good enough show in the sports festival to come back to hero course, one of the teachers said. Very well, Mizu said. You may continue with your apprehension test during orientation and expel whoever you see unfit. But please, Eraser, don't go and expel more than one student like last year. Izawa smiled. No promises. Flashback over. Minoru Mineta was left a whimpering, weeping mess on the floor. And if the weird smell and growing yellow puddle around his feet were of any indication, he pissed himself. The girls practically looked at him with complete disgust and slight fear. especially after hearing of his past perverted actions. Most of the guys, except for a disappointed Ida and a disinterested Todoroki and Bakugu, almost stepped in to support the purple ball-haired boy. But after Aizawa listed his perverted actions and Mineta's gross reaction, they quickly shut up. Izuku frowned. "That's it for the day," Aizawa said, disinterested in the crying mess next to him. "Mineta report to Principal Nizu's office to transfer into general studies. The rest of you, grab a syllabus and read it over for tomorrow." The erasure hero walked to Midoriya and handed him a slip of paper. "Take this and go see the old lady to help fix you and that EV of yours up. I excused you for that first time, but I won't have that EV disrupt class again. Same goes for that Pikachu, or I will force it to go inside that Pokeball. Understand?" "Yes, sir," Izuku answered. "Good," Izawa said. As he walked away, he called out, "Things will be a lot harder tomorrow. Your real training has only just begun." As the black-haired teacher left, the students walked back to the lockers to change back, the guys doing their best to keep their distance from Mineta. Izuku, however, frowned and made up his mind. A few minutes afterwards, after all the other guys left, it was just Mineta and Izuku left. Izuku looked to the purple kid, his back towards him, but Izuku could easily tell that he was extremely upset. Gathering up his courage, he acted. Hey, Mineta was it?" Izuku said, attempting to start a conversation. Mineta turned his head weakly to Izuku. As he stared at the green-haired teen, his eyes narrowed before turning away again. "What do you want? Come here to insult me, maybe beat me up while the other guys are not around?" The short kid said cynically. No, that's not what it," Izuku said. "I just wanted to say that I'm sorry for what happened, you getting kicked out." "Yeah, whatever," Mineta mumbled sadly. Those other guys said the same. "Is that it?" "And no, I just know how you feel," Izuku said. "Yeah, right." Mineta shook his head. "You passed even though you were yelled back at the teach, and broke your finger. You even got some of those girls to fawn all over you with your plain face." Izuku flinched at the short kid's tone and blushed over what he said about the girls, but shook his head and continued. "Yeah, I did pass," Izuku said. "But despite that, I still know how you feel." "Like how?" Mineta asked. Izuku was silent. Figures," Mineta said. "Like I said, you don't know how I dash. I was bullied." The atmosphere grew tense and heavy. Mineta turned back around to look at Izuku with wide eyes. "It started when I was 4, Izuku said. "Everyone was already manifesting their quirks, but I didn't. I was a late bloomer, didn't actually get my quirk until recently. But I figured you already heard that from when I snapped. But, for a while then, me and everyone else thought I was quirkless, and some kids saw me as the perfect defenseless kid to pick on. For 11 years, actually. Jesus." Mineta quietly swore in horror. "Yeah," Izuku said, memories of explosions and punches and kicks flashing in his mind. The feeling of the heat and force and the ache of his wounds. "Names," the words that Bakugo said. Izuku shook his head and continued. "For most of my life, people looked down on me because I was quirkless, looked at me like I was a freak for just being ordinary, picked on because I was different. I didn't even talk to a girl until a few months ago. I guess they didn't want to be friends with a quirkless loser." Mineta looked at him with sympathy, pity, and acknowledgement. "I always wanted to be a hero," Izuku continued. "Even without a quirk of my own, I still wanted to be hero like All Might. A shining hero that saves people with a smile on his face. People laughed at me, of course, said that I was delusional. The only people that stood by my side and supported me were Pikachu and Eevee. But I never gave up on my dream, on my goal, no matter the obstacles, no matter if I had a quirk or not. Then one day, someone told me something that no one ever told me before. Young man, you too can become a hero. I was so glad to hear it, to know that someone believed in me, despite who I was." Izuku said, a tear rolled down his cheek. "So I kept training myself, working hard to reach my goal. And then my quirk manifested and my hard work paid off. Mineta, I believe you can still be a hero too. Mineta's eyes widened to the size of dinner plates. Ah, really? Yeah, your quirk from what I saw was amazing, Izuku said. It's a great quirk to trap villains. You could set traps for them, you could bounce on them to reach higher or farther places. A very versatile quirk. And even though you did those things, which I'm honest I don't agree with, I believe everyone can have a second chance to become better than who we were before. Mineta's eyes grew watery and the short kid launched himself to Izuku and hugged the taller boy's legs, crying thank yous over and over while Izuku momentarily freaked out but let the teen cry and let out his pain. The two kids parted ways, Mineta swearing to do all he can to get back into the hero course, to not give up, something that made Izuku happy. Izuku then left to Recovery Girl's office where he was met with another scolding from the youthful heroine, but his finger and EV were healed nonetheless. As school day ended, Izuku was preparing to walk back home by himself, until he heard, Izuku. Izuku turned to see Momo, Uraraka, Hagakure, and Ida all heading towards him, with Momo being the first to reach him. Izuku, is your finger okay? Momo said worryingly as she grabbed his hand with the bandaged finger, something that made him blush hard. I have been meaning to ask it, but with all the tests I dash. It's okay, Momo, I'm fine, Izuku said. It's good to hear that, Midoriya, Ida said. Thought I would respectively suggest that you should keep yourself from breaking your fingers. Noted. Thanks, Ida, Izuku said. Hey, are you heading back home? Uraraka asked. Maybe we can walk together. The station isn't far from here. Sure, Izuku said smiling. I'd like that. Then it's settled then, Momo said. By the way, where is your house, Izuku? Izuku told her the address, which Momo said. Okay, well since your house is the farthest, I'll just call my limo to pick me up there. Limo? Ida, Uraraka, and Toru asked. Oh yeah, Momo's parents are rich, Izuku said. Like stupid rich. After Momo got off her phone, the new 5 friends, along with Pikachu on Izuku's shoulder, walked off. As they walked, Toru asked, By the way, Izuku, how do you and Momo know each other? Oh well, right after I got my acceptance letter to UA, me and my mom went to celebrate in this fancy restaurant, Izuku explained. There I met Momo as she was choking on a piece of steak. What? Uraraka said. Are you okay? She asked the question to Momo. Oh yes, I am fine, Momo reassured her. In fact, I owe my safety to Izuku here who helped me spit the darn thing out. Bravo, Midoriya. Ida congratulated the green team. You not only figured out the hidden part of the practical exam and saved Uraraka and Hagakure, but also saved Yaoyorozu before even attending UA. You are indeed a far better hero and student than I. Izuku's sweat dropped at Ida's drama. Should I tell him about how I actually didn't know about that part of the exam? Izuku mentally asked Pikachu. No thanks, Pikachu mentally responded. I rather not be forced to hear them praise you more for the rest of the walk home. It gets repetitive. Also, Hagakure, I was wondering something, Momo said. Her eyes closed and smiling, however the malicious aura around her was definitely anything but happy. Me and Izuku are on a first-name basis because we know each other. But may I ask why you are referring to him by his first name? Well, he did also save me and Uraraka before you, Yaoyorozu, Hagakure responded, her tone more demeaning than anything. So I figured that and that Izuku are such good friends now that I get to call me him by his name. Hey, he saved me too, I should get to call him Izuku too. Uraraka butted in. But speaking of names, I actually wish to ask you something, Izuku. Sure, what is it? Izuku asked. Why did that Bakugo call you Deku? Uraraka asked. Izuku practically froze at the question. That is quite odd, Ida said. Your name is Izuku, but why would he refer to you by some nickname? Did the two of you know each other? Why yeah, Izuku muttered, his happy mood taking a drastic shift. Me and Casey Bakugo know each other. We practically grew up together, but he calls me Deku because he thought I was quirkless. At the time, we didn't know that I was a late bloomer, but he called me Deku as a play off my mine. Deku stands for useless. Momo's and Ida's eyes widened in shock, the former's narrowing in suspicion and growing hatred. Is this the same guy that Izuku said bullied him? You thought. That's horrible, Hagakure said. Indeed, Ida said. That is rather unsportsmanlike. So was that attempt to attack you from before? Despicable. Oh, I'm sorry for asking about something touchy, Uraraka quickly said. I just thought that it sounded cool, like the word Dikaira, like, you can do it. Or, you can. Izuku blushed and said. Thanks, Uraraka. And, you can call me Deku, I mean if you want to. What? Ida asked, perplexed. But didn't you say that it was an insult? Uraraka blushed heavily and said. Thanks, but only if you only call me by my first name too. Okay, Ochiko, Izuku said with a smile. Deal. Deal, Deku, Chiko said. Momo and Hagakure stared jealously at the interaction. Dang it, that was smooth. I could have done that, the two thought. Hey, Hagakure said, grabbing Izuku's arm and hugging it. Izuku blushing furiously at his arm trapped in two soft melons. Easy, you should call me by my first name too. Easy? Izuku asked, confused. Yeah, my personal nickname for you, so you better call me Toru, okay? Hagakure demanded. Why, yeah, Hagatoru. Izuku corrected himself. That's better, Toru said cheerfully. Hey! Now Momo called out, she grabbing Izuku's other arm and hugging it. Izuku's face now practically a melon. I think that you might be a little too clingy to Izuku there, Hagakure. Says you. Hagakure retorted. You are practically squashing Izuku's arms in two giant melons. Because me and Izuku are close friends. Momo retorted. We have hung out many times. Momo emphasized that by pulling Izuku closer to her, Momo's breasts practically squishing onto his chest, causing the teen to go dizzy from all the blood coming to his blushing face. Oh, but me and Izuku are close too, Toru said. He did save me in the exams. He even grabbed my boob and I didn't snap at him. Toru brought Izuku close to her own breasts pressing against the teen, the invisible girl smiling at Momo's frown and Izuku's blushing state. Hey, no fair, Uraraka protested, her own face blushing and a bit angry. You are hogging all of Deku's attention. Plus he is clearly uncomfortable. After a while of Ida and Uraraka removing a clingy Hagakure and Yaoyorozu from a blushing Izuku, Ida asked Izuku another question. Midoriya, I know that it seems that it is none of my concern, but do you believe that Bakugo truly belongs at UA? Ida questioned. Huh? Izuku asked, confused. I may not know much of him, but from what I saw from him today, he doesn't strike me as the heroic type, Ida said. He calls you such a demeaning name, clearly resents you for no viable reason, and even goes as far as to attack you. Plus, he seems rather arrogant and explosive. I for one don't find those kinds of qualities as hero-worthy. Amen, brother, Pikachu said, though only Izuku could understand him. I've been trying to tell him that for years. Izuku frowned and gained a pensive look. Finally Izuku answered, I can't really say. I mean, if UA thinks that he can be a hero, I don't really have any say in questioning their choice. Even if they probably don't know what he has done. I doubt Aldra would want to hurt their chances of having their star pupil not get into UA. And yeah, Bakugo has always been rather prideful and full of himself, but I think that people can change, become better. I suppose. Ida relented. Uraraka, Momo, and Toru looked at the green-haired teen with concern, noticing his change in demeanor when talking about Bakugo. Izuku thought back to his recent similar talk with Mineta, about how anybody can chance, become better than before, learn from their mistakes. But when Izuku thought of Bakugo, he, for once, didn't know that he could. Anybody can change, Izuku thought. Right. Principal Nizu sat on his desk, looking at the window as he saw Midoriya walk out with a few of his classmates. Nizu smirked. It appears that Mr. Midoriya has gained himself some friends, Nizu thought. I guess I'll have to postpone our after-school analysis classes for at least a few weeks. The boy will need their friendship to grow close to them. It would be a nice change to the environment of his old school. Nizu looked to the picture of Izuku Midoriya on one hand and a picture of Katsuki Bakugo on the other. From the report I received from Aizawa today, plus All Might's observations of the boy's behavior and interactions with Midoriya, it would seem that his squeaky clean record is rather suspicious. However, without some solid evidence, we will be forced to watch and wait to see what this Katsuki Bakugo will do. He won't be spared from scrutiny or coddled here, and I will not allow bullying in my school. Suddenly the phone rang. Nizu hummed and turned his chair back, placing the two boys' picture on the desk and reaching to answer the phone. This is Principal Nizu of UA High speaking, although you should already know that, old friend. Nice to hear from you too, Keeper Nizu, the man of the phone said, his voice melodic and smooth. I take it this is about the job. Indeed, Nizu said. With our previous Pokemon teacher recently retiring, I couldn't think of anyone more qualified to recommend. Recommended me because I'm an expert Pokemon researcher, or because you found something relevant to my other profession? Both, Nizu said, clicking a button on his chair and pulling up a hologram in front of him. It showed footage of Izuku in the ball toss test. Nizu noticing the blue glow in Izuku's eyes and the blue glow that shined on the ball as he tossed it. A rather amusing turn of events really that even I couldn't have predicted. It appears another is starting to awaken. A student of yours? The man on the phone asked more intently. Indeed, and a successor to one's mantle that now likely has another to hold, Nizu said cryptically. The man on the phone was silent for a moment before he responded. I'll arrive at you a first thing day after tomorrow. The scene changed to a darkly lit room, the blue light of a computer illuminating a portion of the wall. A man stood before the computer, phone in hand. His figure hidden by a large white coat and long white hair that flowed down his back. By his side, a Volcarona hovered next to him. The man opened a drawer and dug out what looked like an amulet. Splendid! Nizu's voice rang from the phone, as the man lifted the amulet to the light of the computer. I look forward to seeing you again, Master Taisher. The amulet was green orb with a golden crossed gate surrounding it with 18 multicolored gems.